So here I have two very popular and very commonly used keyboards. I've got the Logitech MX Keys S keyboard and the Logitech MX Mechanical keyboard as well, both in their full-size forms, both with the number pads. Now I appreciate these have both been out for a little while now and they're not exactly new, but I figured it'd be a good time to try and compare the two of them. The reason for comparing them is, well, the MX Mechanical keyboard is essentially Logitech's answer to those who swear by mechanical keyboards, and whereas the MX Keys S, or the MX Keys, the original one, is for anyone who wants a decent keyboard with scissor switches that's not the Apple Magic keyboard. But in short, Logitech have produced two very good keyboards, and I wanted to create a video which discusses the differences between the two of them, and also whether you should consider switching from your typical scissor switch keyboard to a mechanical keyboard, or vice versa. Hi, my name's Colin and I'm a junior doctor working in the UK. In this video I'm going to be comparing the Logitech MX Keys versus the Logitech MX Mechanical keyboard. So a good place to probably start is the similarities. The obvious point is they're both made by Logitech. The second point is they both make keyboards which are 100% in size with number pads. If you're concerned about the colour of your keyboards, they both come in what is apparently called a graphite colour, which is essentially dark grey with slightly lighter grey coloured keycaps. They both connect wirelessly and have a USB Type A receiver, which enables Bluetooth connectivity to your device. They can also be paired with 3 devices at any one time and can be switched easily between the device if you click on the button on the keyboard. They both have a keyboard with very little flex, and essentially they're both keyboards that should last a long time without wearing down or breaking. They also both have white backlighting with no other option for RGB lighting, so if you're potentially thinking about using an MX Mechanical keyboard as a gaming keyboard but you like your RGB lighting, it might not be for you. Both keyboards come in their full-size versions like the ones I have here, but they also come in mini versions which don't have the number pads and I guess are more compact. The people who want to use the mini versions would likely be anyone who's wanting to benefit from a decent portable keyboard that would be compatible with something like an iPad. Now that I've broadly talked about some of the similarities between the two keyboards, let's talk about the differences. You can see right off the bat that they obviously have different structures, and that's basically coming down to the fact that one keyboard is similar to a keyboard you would find on a laptop, whereas the other keyboard is a full-size mechanical keyboard. So starting with the MX Keys, this does have an all-plastic case with limited flex. Unsurprisingly, it does feel a bit more plasticky than the mechanical keyboard, but it's still structurally sound. Its slim profile does make it feel like a premium keyboard, and it also looks really good too. As I've said before, Logitech kept the colours fairly simple, with the one that I have here essentially being grey. You can also get it in a silverish white colour as well. The two-tone grey, or graphite version as Logitech are calling it, looks modern and it's pretty much goes with any desktop that you can put it with. The MX Mechanical also comes in two-tone grey colour as well, and again Logitech are calling this graphite. Again, it looks modern, but it is, for whatever better way of describing it, a lot bulkier, and that's because it is a mechanical keyboard. The MX Mechanical also doesn't come in any other colours other than the grey. On the top of the keyboard on the right side you'll find the charging port along with the power switch. On the bottom of the keyboard there is a rubber strip which helps you prevent moving it whilst it's on your desk. Now another difference to point out is that MX Mechanical comes with a height adjustable feet, whereas the MX Key doesn't. So you can leave the MX Mechanical keyboard flat on your desk, or you can raise up the back of it with these underside feet, and this gives it an 8-degree angle. And as I just said, the MX Keys S doesn't have this option. It just sits at a slight angle out of the box, but there's no option to adjust the height. It does have 6 rubber grips on the underside, and that stops the keyboard slipping on the desk when you're typing. Obviously the height of the keyboard is slightly different, with the MX Mechanical being taller, perhaps unsurprisingly given it is a mechanical keyboard. And it comes in at 1.1 inches, whereas the MX Keys keyboard is 0.8 inches tall. So it doesn't seem like too much of a difference, but you do notice it when you're typing. However, something that did surprise me though was they both basically weigh the same, with the MX Mechanical being 0.83 kilograms and the MX Keys S being 0.8 kilograms. I just assumed the aluminium case of the MX Mechanical would weigh more, but to put into a bit of context, both keyboards are actually quite weighty compared to something like a Keychron K1 Pro, which comes in at 0.68 kilograms. With the MX Mechanical you get ABS plastic keycaps in the graphite colour. Keycaps themselves are ABS shine through, so you do get a good amount of light coming through the keyboard from the keyboard backlighting, and this is useful if you're typing at night. The only issue is that ABS keycaps do wear down over time and do develop a bit of shine from the oil on your fingers when you're typing. This is something I've talked about before in one of my other videos where I compare different versions of the Keychron K1 keyboard, and I'll put a link to that video up here. The MX Keys S are also made from ABS plastic, and their therefore have some of the same issues as the MX Mechanical. However, one difference you will notice is with the keycaps on the MX keys is that they have a sort of round indenting on each key, which makes them slightly more tactile and helps to center your finger when you're typing. Again, these keycaps are again the same sort of grey graphite colour as I've talked about before. Now moving on to the keys themselves. Needless to say, that's where a big difference occurs between the MX Mechanical and the MX Keys S. So with the MX Mechanical, you're getting all the typical features of a mechanical keyboard. Now the key thing about the mechanical keyboards is each has an individual switch underneath it, which helps it make it more durable and normally more customizable, and it's the switch that's responsible for the clicky sound you get with mechanical keyboards. I have the tactile quiet switches on my MX Mechanical, which does reduce the clicky sound and is a little bit quieter when you compare it with the switches of other options for the MX Mechanical. You do get some feedback when you hit the key, which helps with your typing. The other options include the clicky switches and the linear switches. The clicky switches give you that audible clicky sound that you expect with most mechanical keyboards, and the linear switches give you a faster travel time. Which switches you prefer with a mechanical keyboard is kind of up to you, and it depends mainly on what you're going to be using the keyboard for. Typically, linear gets used with gaming and office work, whereas clicky gets used with someone who is not typing a lot, and the tactile switches are considered a sort of halfway house between them both. It's also important to know that the MX Mechanical keyboard, the switches aren't swappable, so whichever one you buy, you're set with those switches, you can't swap them out. Now if you compare this with the MX Keys S, this is a completely different type of keyboard as it has completely different switches. So rather than having the mechanical switches that the MX Keys has, it has scissor switches. They're typically associated with low profile keyboards, or the kind of keyboards that you'd find on a laptop like a MacBook for example. They work in a different way to mechanical switches. Essentially they have two components underneath the key that connect to each other like scissor blades, hence the name scissor switches. When the key is pressed, these two components connect and it completes the circuit, and this results in you typing out whatever your key you pressed. They're considered easy to use keyboards as there's very little travel and you only need to press them gently for the circuit to complete. They can be used for both typing and gaming, but typically more towards the typing end of the spectrum rather than the gaming end of the spectrum. Like I said before, the MX Keys S is a scissor switch keyboard, and like the MX Mechanical keyboard, the switches aren't customizable. Now as I've said before, both keyboards do not have an RGB lighting option, and instead they both have a white backlight. They both have a sensor which detects when you're about to type and automatically switches on the backlighting for you. I think the point of this is to try and conserve battery life when you're not using the keyboard. Now where they are slightly different is the MX Keys will automatically adjust the backlighting depending on the lighting conditions in the room, whereas the MX Mechanical, this will just have to be manually adjusted on the keyboard itself. Both keyboards do allow the backlight to shine through the keycaps, however I would argue this works better on the MX Mechanical, and this helps it appear brighter when you're trying to use it at night. Now when it comes to the pricing of these keyboards, there is a slight difference. MX Keys S is currently priced at £109.99 on Amazon, whereas the MX Mechanical is currently priced at £150. And I'll leave links down below in the description, but for these keyboards, the MX Mechanical is about £40 more expensive. So which am I going to pick for my desk setup? The answer is probably going to be neither. They're both very good keyboards and I actually liked using both of them. However, I found that for me, I prefer using a compromise between them both. I really like low profile mechanical keyboards. I like the fact that they can be customized but still come with all the benefits of having a low profile. If I was to pick between the two of them, I would probably lean more towards the MX Keys S, but that's mainly just because I mainly use my keyboard for typing for work and for uni work. Also, the main reason to keep it is if I wanted a bit of a change from the typical keyboards I would use, and the MX Keys is a lot more different to the typical keyboards I would use, whereas the MX Mechanical is quite similar to a lot of the Keychron keyboards, and because it's very similar, I'd rather just use the Keychron ones. I think the biggest decider if you're considering either of these keyboards is actually what you're going to be using the keyboard for and what type of typing experience do you like, whether you like scissor switches or mechanical keyboards. But let me know what your thoughts are on these keyboards in the comments down below. If you have found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.